So we're finally seeing an upgrade to the legendary bush, and yes, it's the sneaky snowman, and it seems to bring a few cool needed upgrades with it, guys. So let's check it out, but before we do, let's get into the legendary bush and what the issues were with it, guys, because one of the main issues with the legendary bush people found was you weren't really that disguised in it all the time, as in it didn't cover you all the time. So there was no real difference between using a standard bush and a legendary bush, or not a benefit the players would actually see or find. For instance, here we're in the standard bush and it was just as good as a legendary bush, if not better, because there was more mixed in around the map and you could use them to great event, and actually they could help you significantly, whereas the legendary bush was just so stood out because it was never really in the right place. If you brought it out, if you ever needed to bring it out, if you carried it, you were using an item slot. Now using the item slot alone was absolutely just a total no-no, because you would have to sacrifice either the health. Here you see we've got the AR, the sniper, the shotgun, all things that you really want to go to the end game with. For instance, you want your sniper for your long shots, you want your AR for taking on your fight at mid-range, and then of course shotgun is when you're right up next to them and it's just end game. You need all these things. So what benefit was there of choosing a legendary bush? There was none really. So we've been told, we've been given some inside information, and we've got some awesome footage, yes guys, of the disguised snowmen, the snowmen actually available. But we've been told that you will have the ability to take on damage with the snowman. Now we'll go over more of that later, and we'll show you some footage later where we'll show exactly how that's going to take place and how that's going to be implemented. But going over the bush again, when we're looking at the bush, as you see there, why carry a legendary bush when the bush was everywhere, and there was an 80% chance that your end game was going to end around some grass where there was a bush, and again it would barely hide you, it wasn't covering you. So that's something that they can look at the snowman as well. So we're looking at, we need the damage, we need some form of damage protection with some kind of legendary item that's going to hide us, or non-legendary. But if it's going to be a snowman taking damage and it's going to hide you fully hide you, like, it's going to definitely be legendary, isn't it? So is the so-called legendary bush not that legendary? Because you see, you've always got to come out of it at some point, as you see there. Ours was just a standard bush there, and we'll show you some footage later of a legendary bush and how it can just, it wasn't really all that much that it cracked up to be, or all that much of it should have been. Because at the end of the day, when you're end game, you've got to get out of the bush, you've got to fight, and then it's just a matter of who gets shotgun first or who goes into the storm, as we see here. So let's take a look at some new footage, guys, of the snowmen. Yes, the snowmen are live and they're in game now. But can you spot a snowman in disguise or a snowman? Is there a difference between them? And what benefits will you have of using the snowman? So here, guys, the snowmen, you'll find them in game now, as you see here, and they absolutely look awesome. Now you'll notice, guys, there's loads of them that planted all about, so that's good. So that's going to make sure if you get the snowman in disguise, as long as you don't move, yes guys, you will be able to mix in there somewhere, and that's absolutely going to be awesome. Now we've bumped into a few more of these very soon now, and we'll show you some footage later. So what is it we're hoping for the disguise? What is it's needed? Well, we've been given inside information that you're going to get some form of protection, and it's going to be able to completely disguise you. So unlike the legendary bush where you could be poking out or not disguised fully, it's going to be able to completely disguise you. And they were two things that needed. So is it time we vault the legendary bush? The bush is like, it's a core of Fortnite. It's a core of it. It's absolutely the base of Fortnite. Pistol, spike traps, bush. But as we see, they removed before spike traps, electric traps. So is it time they removed the legendary bush? Is it time they vault it, guys? It's likely time they vault it, and definitely look at giving it a downgrade, because it wasn't that legendary. There was no need to carry it, as you see, because we had so many bushes all over the world. For what reason would you want to give up your health, your RPG, your shotgun, your end game gun for a bush when there was hundreds of thousands of them around the map? Not really counted. If anyone's counted, let me know in the comments how many bushes there is on the map. Is it the thousands, or is it going into more? It's likely to be thousands, isn't it? It's got to be tens of thousands. So the snowmen now, what we know is there's not going to be as many as the bush, but they're going to be in more significant places. So what the game's got to do now is it's got to play out the end game around these places to give you a viable chance of wanting to use these, because no doubt after the trolling's gone and they've been used for trolling and end games and just basically seeing if you can get to the end game with it just stood there, then no doubt it's going to be in random places where the end game's not going to go, as you see on the bridge there. You rarely see the end game around that area. Out of all the royales we've got and all the end games we've gone into, you would rarely see that in the area. So there would have to be a bit of tweaking going on there in the background to make sure that the end game comes around the thing. Now another thing is this legendary snowman, is this going to have a viable chance of taking on the legendary bush or be a viable item? Is it going to take an item slot? Is it going to be a viable item that you want to use, guys? Now this is the thing here. As we know, at the start of every game, everybody's going to shoot every one of these snowmen just like we are. And we're going to go over what sort of protection they'll offer you and look into that in a moment. We'll show you some footage of that. But everybody's going to be shooting them. So how is that going to offer you anything? How's it going to offer you any protection? Because the first thing you're going to do now when you see a snowman after watching this video is you're going to wipe him out. You're just going to gone, snowman. So the minute somebody comes in a disguised snowman, it's going to have to be a very, very slow, brave game, Xbox no doubt, to get to the end game. It really is. It's going to have to be a very, very slow game. But yes, so we think they need to vault the legendary bush. It's looking to be in the works. Oh, a gold one. And then they need to consider downgrading it. So if it ever does have a return, then it's coloured appropriately for what it is, because gold, the top spec item, just like this guy here, it's not really fitting. It never really was. It wasn't fitting as a legendary item. Maybe it was when Fortnite was more blander and not really that much textures compared to what it has now, and that many features and that many states and that many items and the towns and the cities we have now. It's so huge now. It doesn't really fit its context no more, because its context was green fields, really, wasn't it? Let's be honest, that's what it was back then. So tips for the disguise and the snowman: we need protection. We need it to take, if it's going to take a slot, we need it to be viable. Now giving you protection is viable. Now how will that protection work? Why would it give you protection? Well guys, if you shoot at a bush, well, actually, which one's likely to take more damage? A bush? Would you take more damage behind a bush or a snowman? I'd say a bush, actually. But in the game, we've been told that the snow is absolutely going to be able to take some damage. It's going to be able to soak up some damage. Now, taking a look how that could work now, guys, we'll take a look at how could the snow take up some damage and what would it leave the player looking like. So what will happen is, upon meeting up with a snowman, if you don't wipe it out straight away, once you wipe it out, watch this guys, you'll see that the hat's left. So wouldn't that be a cool end game, that when you shoot them, it soaks up a shot and leaves them standing there naked in the hat. Now of course not naked totally, but naked in their skin and the hat. Now that would be awesome. And we've been told there's some sort of protection offered. Now why is that protection offered? And why would it be needed? Just be a cool little troll, the fact they stood there in a hat, and that would really be something really cool, that if you just damaged them, they stood there in a hat for a couple of seconds. But why should they take a damage? Why shouldn't you just be allowed to shoot someone in a bush in a snowman? Well, we'll let this play out, guys, and this is why, because this is what us and many another player have done when you take the legendary bush and you hope for the best. Of course, we are very much disguised here. This is like Black Ops territory. And we're not talking Black Ops 1, guys. We're not talking any of that Black Ops 2. We are talking, this is Black Ops 3 territory. No, it's Black Ops 2, isn't it, guys? The train, the bus. It's Black Ops 2 territory, guys. It's definitely not Black Ops 4. It's Black Ops 2 territory. Now, there wasn't a chance of anyone seeing us here. Of course, like, why would you see us? Why would you expect this bush to be any different from any other bush? Now this is something that sort of got us, like the lights, did that make us more noticeable? Were the lights really needed on Christmas Day? Like, did you really need to put lights in the legendary bush? Couldn't you just put some lights in 40% of the bushes and no lights in the other 40% to confuse players even more, and left our legendary bush without lights? Because of course the lights They just made you that bit more visible. And it's such a legendary item, or so called at the time, you really didn't want to stand out any more than normal, because everybody wanted to do this. There's two things you want to do when you get Fortnite. First of all, you want to get your Royale, and there's different ways of getting that, and of course we are going to go over a guide of your various ways that you can get your Royales, guys, and the best ways to go about it. If you just want a Royale, you just want your first Royale, you've never had your Royale, we are definitely going to show you how to just get your Royale, or at least bring you against one player instead of 100 players. And then it's obviously a bit of luck and a bit of up to you, but we can definitely get you there. So if that's something you're interested, do make sure you subscribe to the channel, guys, and do make sure, of course, you like this video, because of course the snowmen are in the game, and snowman disguise, it's a matter of just minutes now before we get it. But going back to this legendary bush, as you can see, we don't know why we were noticed, because we're in a bush and it should have been pretty good. And why would you need some form of protection in this bush? Well, of course, because it was never really a viable item, and if you were taking shots, you didn't stand a chance. So of course the protection is something very, very welcome. Guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Have a great day.